What is something so shocking you've seen about AI?
What is something so shocking?
I can give you an example. So what Jan said from Meta Llama 3, उन्होंने बोला कि I was shocked that as more development is being in AI, deep learning, the previous papers and books are getting invalidated. क्योंकि पहले papers में क्या होता था, there's a function which was converging this way, parameters, बहुत सारी technical terms थी. Things how should happen working, पिछले papers are becoming invalidated because of how fast things are going on. Like people can have a future like AGI, जो कभी सोचा नहीं गया था.
I kind of agree. Like, I'll give you like my personal example. I remember Vegas May, I was giving this session in AI Accelerator Institute conference. No, sorry, my bad. AI4 conference, Las Vegas mein ho raha tha. So I was giving a talk at that conference about text summarization. So I was talking about was part of part of the research that I was working on news summarization, and like there are components. It's not just like a text problem, it's also like understanding misinformation should not be represented in a summary that you're creating from a news article and things like that. So I was talking about transformer models, and I was sharing the difference between abstractive summarization and extractive summarization. And I feel like it's been like 2 years, 2.5 years. मेरे को ऐसा लगता है कि तब से लेके अब तक आई हैव लिव्ड अ डेकेड ऑलरेडी, बिकॉज गोइंग फ्रॉम अ बेसिक ट्रांसफॉर्मर मॉडल लाइक BERT models or Roberta models to GPT models, it's like it feels like we have moved a decade. That the speed is what I'm amazed at. And obviously, like the biggest thing was for this process is to get access to infrastructure. I don't know why people take it so lightly, or like people who are talking on LinkedIn that I see, like, everybody is talking about like the software stack, but nobody really talks about the infrastructure. I'm like, you cannot do this without the infrastructure. That is the biggest reason why a lot of startups cannot build their foundational models, because उनके पास infrastructure ही नहीं है. GPU नहीं रहेगा तो train किस पे करोगे तुम? So, like, just the speed at which we have moved is something that amazes me.
But because of this speed, like some startups cannot do what big tech companies can do. So in this scenario, what exit strategy you advise startups? कि कब pivot करके निकलना है? What is that point you suggest?
So I feel big tech companies are not focusing on industry use cases. They are focusing on the core tech. And that's where I'm like, startups should fill in the gap with industry expertise. This is something I'll 100% like, I can't like agree more to Sam Altman's advice. In one of the university lectures or something, he had shared that if you want to build a successful startup, find the smallest niche that you can find as possible. Like, find the smallest market who's going to be your loyal customers, and then try to expand from that. Because big tech is doing the exact opposite. Big tech is trying to cater for mass people, and then they try to see, okay, like, फाइनेंशियल कंपनीज का ये यूज केस है, ठीक है, हम लोग अपने प्रोडक्ट रोड मैप में डाल देंगे कि ये इसके लिए कुछ डॉक्यूमेंट इंटेलिजेंस बनाना है, या मेडिकल यूज केस में कुछ और है तो उनका नीश हम लोग बाद में देखेंगे. And they're not focusing on these like niche problems. That's where I feel startups who are doing things like, I think legalese का कुछ तो मैंने देखा था, something related to like legal document prescription and stuff like that. These are the niche problems that startups should target, because big techs are very, very high level. Breadth is what they're focusing on, and startups should be focusing on depth, which is which industry, what is the persona that I'm targeting, what is the exact solution that they would want. Use data that is exactly replicating the taxonomy that your users are going to need. Build or fine-tune models with that taxonomy, and build something which is extremely specific. That's what is going to help you like grow your user base. That's what I recommend to like startups.
So in scenario mein, how do you measure success in a startup? Like, is it reaching X amount in terms of users, in terms of AI models accuracy? What are the measures you keep in mind in measuring a startup success from AI point of view?
Very, very different pillars, and varies for different startups on, or like the use case, I would say. So, and all of these are very important, right? Like, it's how do I explain this? Imagine like you have a table with 10 legs. You have to make sure that all of the 10 legs are at least equal at every given point in time for that table to be stable. So that's the way that I look at startup success as well. It's not just about having the best model, it is also about making sure you're reaching out to the right leads, you're getting your customers on board. But that is not the only thing. You also have to look at your customer experience. Over time, are your customers staying with you? Are you looking at their feedback and incorporating that back in your product? How fast is your product moving? It shouldn't move too fast also. So, it's always this balance of different things. Amplification is another thing. How many people know about your product? How are you working for your marketing strategies? Are you going to enough conferences to meet new customers, to get to have more people learn about you? At the same time, think about partnerships. Partnership is what makes your startup like really, really resilient, or gives it a very, very strong foundation. For example, like Mistral collaborated with Microsoft, right? Like if Mistral was all alone, like cut off, siloed, and just working on their own, they'll not reach the user base that they have reached now. They have collaborated with big tech. Similarly, a lot of other startups have collaborated with big tech. Even Perplexity that we're talking about today, they have not been running alone. They don't have their own lane to run alone. They have been collaborating with a lot of cloud providers, a lot of like other organizations. I think I saw a recent tweet by Arvind that they're collaborating with educational institutions to give out the Perplexity model for free for students to work on their assignments and things like that. So it's a lot of partnerships and collaborations and getting the word out there, taking feedback from your customers and users, incorporating, making sure you're running at a particular speed, not too fast, not too slow. So it's a balance of a lot of different things that really like calls out for success of a particular startup.
And अगर आपको name करना हो most important pillars of
it's very hard to like say. I feel personally customers is like the most important thing. Customer acquisitions. If you have customers, you will get everything else in place. If you have people really excited about your product, who are ready to use your product and ready to pay for that, that's it. Like you have cracked like one of the biggest pillars. And then obviously when you have a ton of customers, you can go to an investor and say, I have 100,000 customers who are ready to pay me N number of dollars. Please fund my startup. That sort of a thing. I think like customer base is like the biggest pillar in my opinion.